hour of 10 o'clock is here, and I'm calling this meeting of the Transportation Committee to order. We have a roll call.
Chaplin. Here. Covert. Here. Evans. Here. Ozog.
Here.
Tornatore.
Here.
Zay.
Here.
You know, time flies when you're having fun, and it's been several months since Chris told us he would be leaving. And this is Chris's last Transportation Committee meeting, which took me by surprise today when Barb reminded me of that. So
I had it on your calendar.
But I can't thank you enough. Your many years of service, my 10 months of being chair, you've been extremely helpful. I've learned a lot and incredibly collaborative, and your team, and it's been a serious pleasure. And we wish you all the best in whatever you're going to be doing next, which is apparently top secret, but we shall find out eventually.
Does it involve a beach? Does it involve drinks with a?
Well, maybe the drink part.
If any of you saw the Barbie movie this month or this past summer, Chris will you be doing beach, or we don't know? Probably not. Exactly. It's all very quiet. So I'm also very pleased that Bill Edson has been formally named our county engineer. So Bill will be definitely very instrumental as we transition to our next department chair, and all of the team will be very, very instrumental. So we will be in good hands, but it'll take time for us to feel like we're in as good of hands as we have been. So
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I had a speech prepared, shocker, but I know we have a packed agenda today, so we'll see if there's any
It's
time.
still not, it's not your last board meeting yet, so
Correct.
there's still time for
Correct.
remarks. So, but thank you. It's been a
Thank you
pleasure
all.
to work with you, and we wish you all the best in your next endeavors,
appreciate it.
whatever those may be. Next, let's see. Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Okay. Next, I need to make a motion. I have an obligation downtown this morning. I'd like to move agenda item 13, the presentation on mobility framework, up in the agenda after item 5, the approval of minutes.
So moved. Did you move or?
I moved.
I'll second.
Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next, let's see, we need to approve our minutes. Okay. Okay, any comments or questions about the minutes? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. John, take it away, please.
Thank you all. Greetings and welcome students. Welcome to DuPage. Appreciate it. So I'll give you a quick summary of the mobility plan framework document today. I did send out an email with some links to those. And if you're having any difficulty getting hold of those documents through our services, please let me know. I'm happy to give you a copy and put it in your mailboxes. So the mobility framework is a collection of themes, strategies, actions, recommendations for the county and its period to enhance mobility across the region. It's a companion document to the long-range transportation plan and the DuPage County Trails Plan. Especially speaks to non-motorized and non-highway aspects of transportation. Document that outlines opportunities for collaboration and connection between public and private entities at all levels. But what it is not is a prescriptive document that programs transit services and infrastructure. Doesn't do route planning, and it is not a replacement for the old 2011 DuPage area transit plan. Next slide, 26. We have probably a couple people on our call today this morning from our team. Regional Transportation Authority sponsored this mobility framework with a grant, and DuPage County matches it at $20,000. It's been a while in coming, obviously, but we had a great team from using with the Coda Group, represented by Alexis Stein, who's on the call today, Alex Waltz from RTA. We had great steering committee representation from our peer agencies, Metro Pace, Choose DuPage. Thanks to Choose DuPage for their contributions, obviously, ComEd, Net DuPage. and some wonderful stakeholders from a variety of agencies representing our disabled communities, Easter Seals, Ray Graham, Autonomy Works. They had a lot of contributions throughout the process. So we're not unique at all in terms of the needs and the issues that are out there in the country. Recent headlines have talked about all the things that we've been talking about with our stakeholders and steering committee. We all recognize the issues that we face. Going through the PERT process recently through CMAP, we recognize the fact that not only DuPage, but McHenry, Kane, Will, all of our peer counties are experiencing the same things. Really, what kind of is different is that in the city, they're really focused more on safety, reliability, cleanliness, and low cost options. All of those things are included within this mobility plan in addition to just general accessibility issues that we cover. Next. So our vision is for the entire county, not just the county with the capital C. Everybody is really included within this framework. Speaks to local, to regional, to national agencies. It presents aspirational goals to achieve better degree of internal and external connectivity, attend to the needs of our most vulnerable populations, recognize, plan for, and help contain the costs to our disadvantaged populations, be more responsive to changing demands and needs across the county. One of the things that came up during this is we've had a number, about 15 or 16 PACE fixed routes operating in the county with the same routes since before 2000. So there has been very little change in our route schedules over the course of 20-some years. Improve transit mobility supportive infrastructure to give people more options. So we've heard that a lot. Next slide, Wendy. So the scope includes an existing condition assessment. That was a fairly hefty document. Really presents a lot of different things in that report about kind of ranging from existing fixed services to our on-demand services, shared ride, that kind of thing. We also spent some time on service gaps. That includes everything from on-the-ground, sidewalk, and path type of gaps to gaps in coverage. Jim say is Wayne Township, for example, just having so few opportunities to catch transit there. Talks a little bit about mobility opportunities. Those are presented as themes that flowed from our stakeholder steering committee meetings, the mobility recovery and PERT efforts, and especially the RTA PACE and Metro strategic planning processes. So a lot of those ideas contributed to the mobility opportunities section. Finally, recommendations. The framework discusses strategies and action items that should be pursued by the entire spectrum of governing agencies. And all throughout the process, we had contributions from our stakeholder and steering committees. And the framework that we hope you'll review over the course of the next few weeks is a document that kind of synthesizes all of that. Next, please. So under the existing conditions, there are a number of metrics that we thought we'd point out. Since 2019, additional auto trips have actually increased in DuPage County, almost 6%. That's a reflection of some of the loss of ridership in transit, but it's also a reflection of kind of a back to work, back to a different way of approaching our trips. Daily commute to other counties, for example, we've increased by 35,000 trips, and that's not just to Cook, it's also to Will, Kane, and Northwest Suburban Cook. It's pretty startling when you look at the numbers that we're actually seeing increases in travel across those counties. So that kind of speaks to the need for cross county and cross border collaboration. Our work from home percentages in DuPage have initially rose in 2020 to over 27%, probably more like 35%. And now we're hovering between 12 and 15% on a daily basis. All the while, our work trips to and from DuPage County have decreased gradually over the decades. So now it only represents like 1 out of 8 trips are work trips. More and more, we're seeing trips to restaurant, to eat out, to medical appointments, to recreation, that kind of stuff, and that's taking up 50% of our trips are those types of trips now. One of the metrics that we're looking at, throughout this whole process is the pace of metro access to development. Obviously, we're talking about access, more access across the county. Approximately between roughly 30 and 45% of our land uses are accessible by pace bus and a half-mile walk. That's, that is a very small percentage of the county. Even less so for metro, where the number ranges between 5 and 11%. So really those numbers need to come up, and that's part of the mission of setting our goals through this framework. Next slide. Existing conditions look at everything from fixed route to our infrastructure, as I pointed out before. Again, we also looked at our township dial ride services and rideshare services. We also looked at existing obstacles, which include things like difficult to navigate and cross intersections. Stroads, I don't know if any of you are familiar with that term, stroad. That's a Florida colloquialism for a state road, basically a 1 mile or longer length of unbroken roadway that is difficult to cross for pedestrians and bikes. There are a number of those within DuPage County, mostly our rail lines and our state highways and expressways. The county has a couple of them as well that need to be addressed over the course of the next decades. Next slide, please. So there were a couple of things that we heard throughout our steering committee and stakeholder responses to what if questions. They identified a lot of things that we also heard in our long range plan process. Transit use would be greater if there were more and better transfer hubs, for example. There are 6 transfer hubs in DuPage County, located either at railroad terminals or also at regional shopping malls. Are those the places that make sense for us to have those hubs anymore? Biking and walking would be easier if crossing expressways is easier, for example. More bike lanes and sidewalks were present and intersections were safer. People wished it was easier to access forest preserves, and especially the Morton Arboretum. We're working on that through our East Branch DuPage Review Trail process, and we hope to accomplish that over the next 5 years. It's a prominent piece of the county's infrastructure in our long-range plan. Commercial areas without, want to access commercial areas without a personal vehicle. There are literally acres upon acres of unused parking lots. Those, how do we treat those in the future? So for environmental mitigation, do we use those for other types of things, such as our kind of minor mobility hubs? Those are things that we're considering. Next, Wendy. So we grouped a lot of our topics into 8 main themes. These are, they kind of run the whole gamut of topics that were covered by the process. Examples are connectivity and flexibility, where we talked about increasing multimodal use through shared use mobility, providing added supportive infrastructure, and improving connectivity across boundaries. Support for success, that's kind of an interesting one too. Promoting development of programs and services that benefit transit-dependent populations and transportation disadvantaged. We worked pretty hard with our WorkNet DuPage folks on this one. Enhance transportation solutions and support mechanisms to and from schools at all levels. That was one of the items that we talked about a lot. The UPass program, extending the UPass program to students at our local colleges throughout DuPage County. Those are just a couple of ideas that came out of the things. So we grouped these into kind of more generic themes, similar to how CMAP's part identified them: the system or a system that we want, finance, how to pay for it, and governance, how to implement the system. Themes discuss aspirations regarding building a more efficient and responsive set of transportation services, more efficient ticketing, payment, and transfers, who needs the greatest support, and targeting safety improvements to reduce barriers to motorized and non-motorized travel. Finance, the framework stays away from prescriptive recommendations on who and how will pay for services. A lot of the things that we're talking about in there are low cost, with an eye towards the low cost solutions. So not expanding the use of capital and rolling stock throughout the county, but reusing, how to reuse and repurpose existing services. So we're calling for a collaborative approach to funding pilot programs, especially targeting isolated and underserved disadvantaged populations. Also recommending as part of this process a look at consolidating the administrative and operational functions of our dial, ride, and ride DuPage services. It's something that a number of regional agencies have asked about and whether DuPage County would consider. We are definitely not looking to promote a $1.5 billion, $1 billion investment like CMAP is doing. Like I say, we're looking at smaller thematic changes to increase access to transit. Governance refers to a better and more involved relationship between local agencies, establishing an ongoing partnership with our peer transit organizations and also local agencies, especially on things like our transit corridors and the building zoning. We're working on a process now on housing, middle housing. So that's one of the things that transit can be involved in, and local initiatives can help with this, building toolkits to make our corridors more transit accessible. So in the framework that you'll see and read hopefully over the next couple of weeks, 27 strategies and 78 actions across those themes. I mentioned some of those particular things that we are looking at in action items. Obviously, we're going to be utilizing the Safe Streets for All process in 2024-25 to address some of those non-motorized issues. We have ongoing ADA transition plan work that we conduct every day, every year. Sid is working on those. We have a Willowbrook Corners program that we're going to be working on probably over the next decade to try to provide better access to those folks. But all of those require collaboration and effort, and it's mostly staff effort and grant writing and funding through more creative methods. So take a look at those, and if you have any questions about those and what you see, feel free to reach out. Let's email me, call me. I'm happy to talk about those. Finally, the schedule looks like this. So today we're just introducing the framework. We hope to release it for public comment in kind of the second week of November with your approval at the 11/7 meeting. Opens that for basically 3 weeks for public comment review. Take those comments in, add them to the appendix, address them however we like, and then bring them back to Transportation Committee for referral to County Board on 12/12. So that's kind of an aggressive timeline, but I hope that working with you guys, we'll be able to produce a really good report and a framework that we can use for the next 5-10 years to help guide us. So thank you for your help. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, John. Any questions for John? Remember to start.
Thank you, John. Thanks for a great report. Very early on in the report, you said there would be little change in routes. There has been little change in routes for years. So I'm wondering if there have been any studies on how route demands may have changed.
Well, yeah, there is, and actually one of the things that we demonstrate in in the gap paper that is accompanies this document is, a lot of travel patterns, that are kind of focused on major destinations in DuPage County. And those changes have been significant, but they still show a lot of inter-county travel that makes those Cook DuPage routes that we've talked about in the past, North Avenue, Roosevelt Road, much more visible and interesting. Those, and we also have seen a much more localized concentration around like the Brook Brook, the Yorktown. See a real heavy concentration of trips within 4.5 to 5 miles. So you could see how that would kind of spur on some on-demand type of services in certain locations. So yeah.
So there has been little change in routes for years, you said.
Yeah.
And we're seeing changes in routes could be beneficial, but you're not talking about the changes in routes.
No, that's going to be addressed, I think, in part through the network revitalization program that PACE is engaging in. They're expected to start that here in the final quarter of the year.
So then perhaps routes will be changed.
Yeah,
Depending
so we want to be at the table with that, and also have an ongoing presence with them in the future, so that we are able to influence some of those changes in the routes.
Good. I saw safety on a couple of the slides,
Yeah.
Safety theme and safety in the we want these things, but I didn't see safety addressed. I know that Chicago is a huge problem with crime on the CTA and PACE, mostly on the CTA. Are we seeing here in DuPage County any crime in our public transit? And how is that being addressed? Because I saw safety concern on 2 of the slides.
Low, I think the low amounts. I think what we're really concerned about is the bus shelter security and places like the hubs, and making sure that those are outfitted with either better lighting and cameras and things that make people feel a little bit better about taking those services, not sitting out in the middle of a parking lot somewhere isolated waiting for a bus to show up.
And one more quick question. What's a micro mobility hub?
So a micro mobility hub would include things like bikes, e-bikes, scooters, things like that. It's not, obviously not everybody's going to use them during the winter or bad weather, but I think that they're in certain locations they can add value, opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Member Chapman.
Thank you. Thank you so much, John, for the great presentation. Just to follow up on the safety a little bit. I also think in the safety, we're also addressing those long stretches where there's no crossings, right? So also, because I always think of public safety as potholes on the road, good maintained infrastructure.
Not on the county system.
I know. So this is what I'm saying, right? So
But this is access.
right, access and but there's lots of different when we're talking about safety with public transportation, I always think about safety of the bike riders too, on the bike path, right? So I think it's a great conversation. I think this is really good, a good start. I haven't had a whole lot of time to review the documents, but I'm looking forward to it. But I think transportation is so important because it even plays into our economy, right? So we have a good public transportation system here. We have people that want to come and work here. So it's all ties in together. So I think this is very relevant, very good. And I'm excited to review it and see what we come up with. So thank you.
Yeah, and we're definitely dealing with an awful lot of changes in the post-COVID
Yes.
era because mobility has changed, the workplace has changed. So thank you again,
And again,
John,
thanks to our RTA team
and all of
did a great
everyone who's worked
Really
on
proud.
this. Member Zach.
Madam Chair, just so everybody knows, I hope you get your support. And when you saw that routes of how
Yeah.
District 6, the northwest corner, has no
Desert,
routes
yes, yeah.
whatsoever. It's basically a desert for
Yeah.
some low to
Transit
mid-income areas that have no public transit whatsoever.
Any other comments? John, thank you again, and thank you to everybody who was involved in this report. I also want to welcome our students who are here today from Hinsdale Central. AP Government, is that right? Okay, I hope you enjoyed your day here and learned a lot. And at this time, I do have an engagement downtown, and I'm going to turn the rest of the meeting over to my Vice Chair, Sam Tortore, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. Nobody likes to quit.
No, I've really toughened up in this job, so. Thank you,
With that,
everybody.
We'll move on to procurement requisitions. I'll entertain a motion to approve 23, 30,
So moved.
39. Recommendation for approval of a contract purchase order to Cars Technology for license renewals for software used to design highways, intersection improvements, traffic signals, and other roadway related improvements from December 1, 2023 to November 30, 2024. For an amount not to exceed $15,150. This is a motion and second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I'll entertain a motion for 23-3330. A recommendation
So
for
moved.
approval of purchase order to Secalco Limited to furnish and deliver liquid calcium chloride as needed for the Division of Transportation from October 18th through October 17th, 2024. For contract total not to exceed $15,000 for lowest responsible quote. There's a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All is in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve DTP 101-23, a recommendation for the approval of a contract for Priority Products, Inc. to furnish and deliver weather hydraulic
moved.
fittings, hoses, and connectors as needed for the Division of Transportation for the period of November 1, 2024 for an amount not to exceed $50,000. The motion and second. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve DD 102-23. A recommendation for the
So
approval of
moved.
contract and second equipment to furnish and install 2 dump bodies on 2 Ford F-550 chassis for a contract total not to exceed $64,498. Motion is second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to change orders, I'll entertain a motion to approve 23-3223 Kevin's Auto Service and Repair for repair
So
of
moved.
a heavy truck
Second.
decrease remaining encumbrance in the amount of $38,983.76. This motion is second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve 23-3277 DTP
So moved.
12-1D-20 amendment to resolution DTP 121C-20 issued at Night Inc. for professional design engineering services for improvements to the bridge carrying Warrenville Road over the East Branch of the DuPage River to increase the funding in the amount of $67,650, resulting in an amended contract total amount of $533,471.10, an increase of 14.52% or dollars. Is that? Not sure there's a dollar sign here, percentage there. And a cumulative increase of 34.78%. Motion is our second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On the motion to approve 23-3283 DTR
So moved.
81-23 amendment to resolution DTR 81-23 for the correction of a scrivener's error in the county cost for the awarding contract to Mead Inc. 24-25 traffic signal and street light maintenance at various intersections within DuPage County. The motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We got any action items? So I'll entertain a motion to approve 23-3241, a request for
So
approval
moved.
of payment for the annual membership fee to Julie Inc. for resolution DTR 679-16, approved by County Board on November 22, 2016, for locating services for the Division of Transportation for an estimated county cost of $17,500. There's a motion second. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve 23-3350,
So
approval of release of trails plan
Second.
for 30-day public comment period. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to intergovernmental agreements, I'll entertain a motion to approve DTR 86-23, an intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and the City of Warrenville to resurface Warrenville Road between River Road and the Bridge carrying Road, Warrenville Road over West Green for an estimated county cost of $20,500. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve DTR 87-23, an intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and Illinois State Highway Authority to establish respective responsibilities for the York Road reconstruction of Gateway Drive to Devon Avenue for an estimated county cost of $24,793,250. Questions, comments?
Need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve GTR 88-23, a memorandum
moved.
of understanding between the County of DuPage and Illinois State Tollway Highway Authority for study of a multi-use path connecting the Great Western Trail and Illinois Parade Path along Highway 355. There's a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Moving into agreements, so entertain a motion to approve DTR 89-23, settlement agreement between the County of DuPage,
Second?
Wilshire Tower SPCE LLC and the Village of Bloomingdale for improvement, transfer maintenance, and online stormwater front story floodplain storage system as a result of prior improvements by the County of DuPage along Army Trail Road. It's a motion, second. Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We have ordinances. I'll entertain a motion for GTO 52-23. An ordinance
So
declaring the
moved.
assignment of easements in the Village of Blue, County of DuPage necessary to convene for the County of DuPage for improvements along CH 3-Warrenville Road over East Branch Chicago DuPage River Bridge, section 14-124-BR. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to receive and place on file informational FMR 5-23 rescind resolution FMP 81-23 for approval by contract for the United Door and Dock LLC to provide preventative maintenance
Second.
service and repairs for overhead doors, roll-up shutters, gate operators, dock closers, quality doors, needed for the county facilities for facilities management for a 2-year period for a total contract not to exceed $209,000. Lowest responsible bid. This motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Also entertain a motion to receive and place on file FMP 84-23, recommendation for approval of a contract to
So
Village
moved.
Chicago Corporation
Second.
to provide preventive maintenance service and repairs for overhead doors, wall shutters, gate operators, deck levelers, and revolving doors as needed. County facilities for facilities management for the 2-year period, November 1, 2023, to October 31, 2025, for total contract amount not to exceed $209,000. That's a motion. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We get our presentation on ability framework and moving on to discussion. Trade truck weight enforcement. I'll turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, Sam. So we added this item to the agenda every now and again, the topic of truck enforcement and fines and issuing of fines to users on our system without permits due to the damage of the, heavier trucks on our roads, but also just safety. Inexperienced drivers, we're concerned about that. So what I thought would be a good idea for my last meeting was to kind of bring this to a head and maybe address the topics that come up through. So Bill's going to give an overview of our overweight over dimension permitting ordinance. The sheriff's office is represented today. Talk about truck enforcement details, and then State Attorney Reynolds will talk about the fines, the collection, the distribution for those. So I do want to make it clear that the legal load on trucks is 80,000 pounds, and anything over that by statute is allowed to be on our road via permit. So whether they have a permit or they don't, the vehicle, we do allow heavier weight vehicles on our road, and then we assess fees based on the expected projected impact of that truck on that particular road in terms of the long-term impact in terms of payments. So if they don't have a permit, then they're subject to fines. So I kind of want to clarify that. So with that, I'll open it up to Bill to kind of introduce the topic of our overweight over dimension permit.
Thanks, Chris. So kind of setting the stage, we operate under an overweight over dimension truck permit ordinance that was adopted by the county in 1992. It was last updated in 2017. That update simplified the fee structure, and it also allowed us to use a third-party system, which we use a program called Oxcart to allow companies to submit their permit requests, and then it allows us to collect the fees. For context, we issue about 2,600 overweight permits per year, and then we issue another 700 over dimension permits. So that's a truck where the load is going to exceed the size limits, but it's not overweight. So it might be something big, but kind of lightweight, as opposed to the 2,600 overweight, which exceed the 80,000 pounds. The permits that we issue result in about $450,000 in fee collection every year. That's been pretty steady for since 2018 when we were fully operational with Oxcart. The fees for overweight loads range anywhere from $20 to $440. is what we've been seeing as we track through. It's pretty consistently distributed amongst those, amongst that range as well. So it's not any particular, it's a lot of 440s, or it's a lot of 20s. It's pretty well spread out. So I mentioned the Oxcart system. It's a web-based system. The companies that, carry the loads around the county can enter, they can create an account and they can enter all the information about all their trucks and their fleet. And so they love that because they basically have a library of everything that they transport. And then they can just go in the axle spacing, the particular configuration for different trailers, and they can choose which one they're using for a particular move and send the information in. It also allows them to submit a routing, so we can see on a map where they want to go and how they want to get there. That gives us a chance to give them feedback very quickly and say, you can't go that way right now. There's a construction project going on. There's a bridge that you can't get across because of your weight. So we're going to recommend you go this other way. It gives us a chance to interact with them. It also gives us a chance to really quickly approve or reject their application. We can do it within minutes in most cases. Going back to pre-Oxcart days, we get a fax, we get an email, we'd have to print out a form, we'd have to go through, send it back. Then we'd have to wait for a check to come in. Those things are all gone now. Oxcart also allows multiple staff to work on it simultaneously, being web-based. So if we get inundated, if there's a big project going on, a big warehouse or something being built, a lot of panels coming in, multiple staff can be handling those all at the same time. Oxcart is used by many different municipalities and counties throughout the region, but especially in Northern Illinois. And again, that really gives the benefit to the trucking companies where they have a one-stop shop for many, many of the jurisdictions that they're going to be driving through. They still have to reach out to us on occasion, but they don't have to make 10 different submittals. The software helps them do that. And we get the individual submittal, but they don't have to make 10 submittals. And Oxcart charges a separate payment fee to the user. And what that means is that we collect our entire fee. So if we assess a $100 fee, we get $100. The user might be paying $110 with a credit card fee and a processing fee. The ordinance update from 2017 allowed that program to operate that way. The other thing I want to mention was the bridges and how the load ratings work in particular. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what I missed? Just want to make sure I talked about the weight. So Chris mentioned 80,000 pounds of the legal load. And with our bridges, we have 37 bridges that carry truck traffic. Of those, 3 of them are rated for less than 80,000 pounds. So they're currently deficient in terms of being able to provide a legal load capability. And we will not allow overweight vehicles to drive across those. So overweight for the posting. So the bridge, for example, on Geneva Road up here at the West Branch of the DuPage River, near Winfield Road, is rated for 12 tons. We will not approve a vehicle over 12 tons to go over that road. Even though it's a legal load, that bridge cannot handle it. I will note all 3 of the bridges that are deficient in terms of the load rating are scheduled for replacement beginning in 2024. So we're actively working on getting those bridges up to a full legal load and beyond. One additional bridge is limited to 80,000 pounds exactly, and we're also currently designing a replacement for that bridge. Our other bridges can all accommodate some amount of overweight, and we do permit them accordingly. One bridge can accommodate a maximum load of 100,000 pounds. One can accommodate 120,000 pounds. All the rest of them can accommodate over 120,000 pounds. So when a request comes in on those bridges, if it's under 120,000 pounds, we pretty much automatically approve it because we already know the bridge can handle that weight. They pay the fee, they get the permit to go across the bridge. When it's over 120,000 pounds, the request gets reviewed by our bridge program manager, and then we can send it out to a structural engineer if we need to get further analysis done. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sheriff's Office.
Morning. Basically, Chris wanted us to come in, and I apologize. Chief Papa is out on a search warrant. Actually, all of my admin staff are on a search warrant this morning in Vincentville. With me, I have Attorney Kermit with me this morning, who has actually done some of these citations. He's actually a truck enforcement trained individual. We had 4, we had 1 retire. I currently have 3, but manpower is not really allowing us to get out here and really do truck enforcement like you probably would like us to do. What we have done is when we've got complaints about the truck enforcement, we've been out and we wrote some citations for people who are not permitted. You have particular questions on what we write, of what we can write, Tony can ask you some questions on that.
Hi. There was a truck accident this morning on Roosevelt Road.
Okay,
I don't know. if
where
it
at?
was, east of Roosevelt Road by Carlton Avenue, Carlton.
County Farm Road?
It was east of County Farm Road.
It's
By the 7-Eleven.
Downtown.
Yeah.
That will be a week.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Well, I don't know if that was a weight issue or whether it was just, not allowing, okay, it's out of our jurisdiction.
It's gonna
Okay.
be incorporated.
So how are we gonna enforce this weight issue?
So, well, first of all, we get our staffing. Staffing is everything around here. I believe we have attempted to put 2 scales in our budget request. We'll see if we'll be able to get them. What we've been using lately are the state scales around the county to do the support, so when we have the opportunity. Have you actually done it before you get it out, since you trained?
No, I'm just trained. I really even have.
So our main person has been Deputy Cotter, and then we have Deputy Long, but Deputy Long is also one of my FTOs. So between the 2 jobs, I really prefer him to be training new deputies, which he currently is. I do have 4 individuals out in the FTO right now. So we'll be looking to probably add a couple more. Again, manpower is an issue. So I will try and get a couple more trained within the next year or 2. Questions?
I have a question. So if there's a truck driving on a residential road that's like, it's a neighborhood, you don't need a scale or anything to enforce it, right? You can just pull over.
So there's 2 different ways you can handle it. If you see a sign, do you ever see those signs, the 5-ton limit?
Yeah, right.
So that's just a compliance ticket. That's not an overweight. So if we're gonna enforce, a lot of people come in, they want us to do overweights on these signs. You can't do that. That's just basically disobeying a traffic control device. That's what we write that, and that's $164.
Okay.
Now, if we're gonna do an overweight, you can do an overweight anywhere. Like I said, it's time and manpower. That can be a 3-4 hour ticket. That's half.
It's gonna have shifts.
So, but they can be big fines. I've heard stories of them being over $200,000. Cotter gets some pretty big ones. I won't throw numbers out unless you want to hear, but you just told me about one.
Carter's got about 5 or 6 he's written so far this year. He's around $26,000, $27,000 in fines this year. But manpower is allowed. We've actually let him out and about, but it is time consuming. He might only write 1 ticket, maybe 2 that day because of the time consumption. But they are hefty fines.
Now, back to your question though. So it's kind of a complex thing. It's not, you can enforce that sign, that's a compliance ticket, or you can enforce the overweight, or you can enforce the overweight by registration. I mean, this takes a long time to learn this stuff. So I'll just give you a quick run through. If I'm going to enforce an overweight, now they simplified it. They said 80,000. Now a truck with only 2 axles can only weigh 40,000. A truck with 3 axles, and I got all these charts. I don't need to even memorize all this stuff. So it depends on the amount of axles. So you can be overweight actually technically at 40,000. You can be overweight actually over 80,000 if you have a permit. So it depends on the amount of axles, if the tires are tandem, if you bridge them. I know these are technical terms I'm using. Like I said, it takes a lot of schooling to
Well, which
understand.
one's the easier ticket to write? So in District
Sure.
3, we have a stretch of road. It's Green Road. There's a truck facility, but near Royce Road, but a lot of trucks go north
Sure.
and they can turn on 75th. But if they go past 75th and drive up that Green Road to Hobson, then that's residential, correct? And so.
So I sit there a lot, the
Okay.
woods of Hobson Green, right?
Yes.
Yep, in that condo, beautiful place, yeah. So I sit there, trucks I've noticed come mainly early morning, I think they're coming from the dump, right? Yep, yeah. You can enforce that sign, I think the signage is no trucks over, I think it's 5 tons, I have a picture of it.
Yeah, that's
on my phone.
5 tons.
It is 5 tons. So you can enforce that, you could just do And like I said, a lot of officers aren't trained in this. So if they see a truck, I mean, I'd like to give them a little train, at least, you could give them a compliance ticket, but it's intimidating for just a normal officer who's not trained to do that. So usually I'll sit there, Cotter will sit there. And yeah, the easier way to enforce that though is just a compliance ticket.
Okay,
It's less time consuming.
okay, good. Thanks.
I mean, our concern is we spend a lot of money on roads, obviously. And as you say, a lot of people do the software, but I'm betting a lot of people don't do the software and they just roll with the dice and see what happens. I mean, is there any way, I mean, we know asphalt companies, we talked about 80,000, but again, if it's 40,000 and your front axle's got 50 on it and your back axle's got 25,
You're overweight.
you're overweight, you're overweight. So I mean, and hopefully in the future, we can do something where we get these portable scales and
Right.
do them out of our distribution centers. I mean, we're gonna spend probably $15 million on Fabian Parkway, which is gonna be a huge hub for, business coming out of there, but it's not gonna last long if, 200 trucks a day are coming out of there, 40 of them are overweight.
On our Zoom, most of them, they will try and do an overweight because if they can get one through, they're making their money.
That's what I'm saying. We can't catch every truck, but maybe if we get these portable scales and at certain times we can do
Move
some
around.
spot enforcement and move it around. I mean, it's a little bit of deterrence thinking, oh, they're out, they're looking at it. I mean, we're not gonna catch every truck, but I mean, it seems like, companies will roll that dice and in the meantime, we're paying the price by, our roads aren't lasting as long as we hope they are and we're replacing them, 5 years earlier than we should be.
Can I interject real quick? A lot of the trucks carry the bond forms with them because they know, they kind of expect, it's kind of a tax that they expect. So
Well, I
they,
know attorneys that are in other counties that they expect it and they're waiting for the call.
so
I
they
mean, that's-
carry that form of payment in their trucks.
Member Dessert, go ahead, you're next.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair.
So you kind of were leading us to this question, but my question is, as an officer patrolling, how do you know a truck is overweight? And once you pull it over, how do you know it's overweight without a measure?
So,
And you kind of started with the axle, you can tell by axle.
well, I mean, this is kind of common sense. If you see a truck that's full of garbage, leaking water, water is probably the heaviest thing, right? Or concrete. So if you see, actually garbage trucks are oftentimes overweight, especially wet loads, cement trucks, stuff like that. They're generally very overweight. If you see a truck sagging, secondly, you don't need PC to pull over a truck. It's,
Reasonable
you
suspicion.
just need reasonable suspicion that it's overweight. So it's a little different threshold. For normal traffic stops, we need probable cause.
But then you pull it over and how do you weigh it on the scene and to see if it's
What's the
overweight?
scale?
You take
Oh,
them.
you have a portable
well,
scale,
So
I
there's,
didn't know that.
so there's stationary scales and portable,
Okay, gotcha.
which we have neither of them.
So we're using the state's actual scale. So they'll have, hey, you need to follow me over to this scale and get a proper weight. We're gonna work on getting our own portable scales and that will be a lot faster.
Thank you.
Who hasn't asked the question yet?
Right.
I can't see. Brian, go ahead.
So I got on this board of 2010, and I brought this up every year, transportation since 2010, that we should get portable scales, and I've even suggested that we buy them from the transportation. You mentioned two in the budget. I mean, these will pay for themselves in just a couple of years. When in Downers Grove, when I was mayor from whatever, 03 to 7, we had one guy with a portable scale. The tickets were at that time $8,000 to $10,000, and he said they're higher now. But I was told back then that they do the same amount of damage to an overweight truck as 10,000 cars going over a road. Mayor Mueller in Lombard, he had a very active portable scale also. I don't know if we checked with municipalities, but
They're using.
I mean, we should just, it'll pay for itself. So whether you want one scale, we should get the scales.
We had planned to do this pre-COVID. We had a huge meeting about.
Back in 2005 or 6, we had one gentleman on our village council who was with a big manufacturer. He's quoted at the time that, we probably throw half our loads overweight, because if we can get half of them through and never get it over, we save on our transportation costs. I don't know what it is today statistically, the ones that go without permits, but there's probably a lot of them are trying to get it, because there's very little enforcement going on, and they're doing a lot of damage. And bring up, as I said, there's safety issues. There was one years ago on Route 53 where the truck couldn't stop because it was overweight, rear-ended the car, it had a fatality there. So there's a lot of safety issues, but we should just get these scales. I mean,
How much are they?
Buy them out of the transportation and then just give them the money back with the fines. I mean, it'll pay for itself, but you'd have to get your guys trained, but,
Right, I'll get a couple more training.
and it's a little easier to have a portable scale. I know you'd like to take it, but then you gotta take, you know, car over.
Stationary and,
Right. I know you can do it stationary now, but, we need to get portable scales to start this.
Okay, we're already 20 minutes late for development, so I'm gonna have one more question and then move on to the next thing.
I just had a
All
really
right,
quick
quick,
question, really quick question. Do you have repeat offenders with this issue and do you end up collecting money on this? Because if we're not getting our money, back to the county, people, I mean, how many incidents do you have where, it's the same truck that's doing the same violation?
Ours particularly, we have not, but I know Colin Fury out of West Chicago, I talk to him about it often. He's had it's the same company, not the same driver, but the same company, the same reasons, remember what you just said. As many loads as they can get through overweight, they're making money. They're saving on the fuel and they're saving on their back and forth from their hub. So him and I have spoken about this because I would like to use the scales, but he's using them every day. We did mention and talked about trying to get scales right before COVID. Chris and I had a meeting and we were going to do it and COVID kind of kicked in and that kind of set us all in a different path. So I'm glad we're going to readdress this and I'd like to get them out there in the street.
Okay, we're gonna turn it over to the state's attorney regarding.
I'll try to make this really fast. Some of this was covered. When someone gets a ticket, there's a court assessment that used to be called like court costs, and that is $260. $115 goes to the general fund, $53 goes to the circuit court clerk, and $92 goes to the state. As far as the fines on every ticket, the state gets 50%. The other person that gets the money is the person that has jurisdiction of the road. So in a municipality, when the municipality writes a ticket and prosecutes, they get all of the fines. Of that 50%, the state gets 50%. When the sheriff's office is out there, if they're on a road that the county has jurisdiction of, that means the county maintains. So unincorporated county road, 50% state, 50% county. If the township has jurisdiction of the road, the township gets the 50% and then the state gets the 50%, just to clarify that. 2,000 pounds overweight, the fine is $100. Obviously the fine increases by the weight. An example is 6,000 pounds overweight would be $1,800.
So a county road in a village.
Right, what if Bloomingdale
So-
Road went on Army Trail Road?
So if the sheriff's office went into the municipality, we need our office to prosecute to get that county portion. And we prosecute whenever the sheriff writes a ticket. So the sheriff certainly could take money away from the municipality, but that's
I prosecute the ones in Bloomingdale if it's written by Bloomingdale.
But we don't, the county gets nothing even though it's our road.
Unless the sheriff issues the citation.
Well, I mean, it's to the damage to our road. It kind of seems there should be some kind of percentage going back to the county.
Legislative committee.
You would get 115 in the general.
I'm sure somebody a lot smarter than me can figure out how much damage an overweight truck does to
But we do get something you said.
road.
You get, yeah, so
are the
every
fines
single
enough
ticket,
for
regardless of who
damage?
writes it, we're getting $115 on every single ticket written in DuPage County for overweight or over dimension.
Okay, so we are getting it, we're getting
Yes.
something. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the county does get something.
Okay, good.
And just real quickly, Dawn asked about how the fines are assessed basically based on the weight. The more overweight you are, the higher the fine.
And the more damage you're causing to.
Presumably, the more damage you cause.
And does that money, the fine money, go back into transportation to fix those roads eventually? No.
The money we collect, again, I just want to go back to, if you pull someone over 10,000 over, they get a fine. If they came through us through Oxcart, it's a $250 fee. That comes to me, that comes to 450,000 a year that Bill said we get. So these vehicles are allowed. The question is, so the damage to the road, through the permitting process, we're assessing them a fine based on, our fee based on the fact that that truck at that time on that road is going to do an extra $100 worth of damage over 50 years or 20 years.
Right.
If they're overweight by statute, they're going to be fined. It's more punitive than I think the damage to the road they're doing. So the goal is, and I will say, we can't confirm it, but the simplicity and the convenience of Oxcart, the fact that 30 some municipalities, 4 counties are using it, there is a huge incentive to use this system. All their vehicles are already pre-programmed in there. And so, you know, we can't measure that because we don't know the people that don't have it, aren't driving legally, but we do think we've made it extremely convenient for trucking companies to use it.
And remember, many of the trucks that are overweight, and this is just from my personal experience, is Joe's Landscaping Service. Okay, or the person who goes around and collects whatever. They're one man or operations, and a lot of these people are overweight, and they might not sign up for this, so.
You know what, I think that's, unless there's any other questions, I don't want to take up too much time.
Okay, we'll move on to
We'll
the
keep
next
this
item.
extremely quick. So earlier today's meeting, we approved a settlement agreement with Wilshire Tower. So back in 2004, we widened Army Trail Road, and as part of that project, we constructed a major stormwater management facility, detention, storage. And we did it uniquely. You have an exhibit at your place. We actually constructed this this facility actually on Wilshire Tower property. So we secured a permanent easement for this, and when we were completed and the work was accepted, they became the maintainer of record, right? So 20 years later, we were informed by the village through Wilshire Towers, we were informed by the village that this area needs to be addressed due to some damage and just lack of maintenance. So what we want to do is talk about the procurement of services to get this, to move this along. There is an interest by the village, by the county, to improve this area. So normally we would pursue engineering services through qualifications-based selection, right? We'd advertise, we solicit, we review, we evaluate, and we make a selection. In this particular case, because of the history of the engineer of record, because of their familiarity with the project, they've already been supporting us during this investigation with Wilshire. That our recommendation is, because of their past experience, their expertise, their knowledge of the project, it would be far more timely to pursue the use of civil tech engineering for the engineering services for this project and treat it more of a sole source. They have the expertise, they have the knowledge, they have the unique ability and the experience on the project, and kind of unique, but we want to bring it forward to committee because it's different than how we solicit engineering services. And we can pursue these services rather quickly and get engineering under the way, hopefully for construction in 2024.
And we're gonna bring this back at another
Absolutely.
meeting for.
You would,
action
the
item.
contract, yes, the contract would come forth, yes. In the future.
Are you looking for consensus?
Just a consensus that we would move forward this as a sole source.
Everybody okay with it?
It makes sense. I think they have the knowledge. I think it would actually save us money if we went with this company instead of putting out to bid.
Yeah.
Because of their knowledge. Okay.
Wouldn't be on price anyways.
No concerns from state street.
No, it meets the state statute, and it wouldn't be bid anyways. It would be qualification,
Okay.
and you'd be judging the person on who has the most history and would be the best.
Any old business? You would.
I barely
Go
know.
ahead. I'm just kidding.
I just want to say thank you to Chris, and thank you so much for helping us and helping me in the past, and just all of us here, we will miss you, so good luck.
Thank you.
I think she speaks for all of us. Congratulations.
Except for the chair. It took her 10 months to get rid of you. You know, nobody's counting.
Is there any new business? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. All right.